Hey everyone! Welcome back to the podcast, where we break down the best ways to learn English effectively. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jake.
Today, we're talking about a technique that can seriously boost your pronunciation and fluency: shadowing.
Shadowing is one of the best kept secrets of language learning. If you've ever wondered how some people sound so natural when they speak English, this might be the answer.
It's simple but powerful. You listen to a native speaker and immediately repeat what they say, mimicking their pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm as closely as possible.
Exactly. It's not just about repeating words, it's about training your mouth to move like a native speaker's does.
And that's why it's so effective.
Instead of just memorizing vocabulary, you're actually practicing the physical side of speaking English.
Right. A lot of learners struggle with pronunciation because their mouths aren't used to making English sounds. Shadowing helps fix that.
So today, we're going to break down why shadowing works, how to do it properly, and the best resources to get started. Ready? Let's dive in.
Alright, so let's start with why shadowing is so powerful. Jake, what makes this method stand out from just regular speaking practice?
Well, the biggest thing is that it forces you to think and speak at the same time.
You're not just passively listening, you're actively copying native speech patterns in real time.
Yeah, and that means you're training your brain and mouth to work together, just like native speakers do. That's a huge step towards speaking more naturally.
Exactly. And it's not just about pronunciation.
Shadowing also improves your rhythm, intonation, and even your listening skills.
That's a good point. A lot of learners struggle with understanding fast, natural English, but shadowing helps because you're mimicking those speech patterns.
Yep. When you listen to a native speaker and immediately repeat, you start picking up the flow of the language, the way words connect, the way certain sounds disappear, and the natural pauses.
Okay, so let's talk about how to do shadowing correctly, because if you don't do it right, you won't get the full benefit.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people make mistakes when they first try it. So step 1, choose the right audio. You don't want something too fast or too complicated.
Definitely, I always recommend using podcasts, YouTube videos, or even audiobooks that match your level. If it's too hard, you'll just get frustrated.
And if possible, pick something with subtitles or transcripts so you can check your understanding later.
That's key, and step to listen first before you start shadowing. Don't just jump in and try to repeat everything immediately.
Yes.
Give your brain time to absorb the sounds, the intonation, and the rhythm. Then, on the second or third listen, start repeating along with the speaker.
And when you do shadow, don't worry about getting every single word perfect. Focus more on how the speaker is saying things, copy their tone and flow.
Right. And don't pause after each sentence. You should be speaking at the same time as the native speaker, like a real shadow.
It might feel weird at first, but the more you do it, the more natural it gets. And soon, you'll notice that your pronunciation starts improving without even thinking about it.
Yep.
And another tip: record yourself while shadowing.
When you listen back, you'll hear what sounds good and what needs improvement.
That's such a great way to track progress. Alright, now let's talk about how often you should practice shadowing to see real results.
All right.
So let's talk about consistency. How often should someone practice shadowing to really see improvement?
Ideally, every day. Even just 10 to 15 minutes of shadowing can make a huge difference. The key is repetition. Your brain and mouth need time to get used to these new patterns.
Yeah, and if you can't do it daily, at least aim for a few times a week.
The more you do it, the faster you'll improve.
And you don't have to use the same audio every time. In fact, it's better to mix it up. One day, try a podcast. Another day, a YouTube video, maybe even a movie scene.
Good point. And don't just stick to one accent. If you want to understand a variety of speakers, try different English accents: American, British, Australian, whatever fits your goal.
Exactly, because real-life English isn't just one style. The more exposure you get, the better prepared you'll be for real conversations.
Another thing, shadowing isn't just about pronunciation.
It can also boost your confidence.
When you practice sounding like a native speaker, you start feeling like one too.
That's such a great point. A lot of learners hesitate when speaking because they're unsure of how they sound. But if you've been shadowing regularly, you know you're pronouncing things correctly.
And that confidence transfers into real conversations. When you're used to speaking naturally through shadowing, your brain doesn't panic as much when you have to speak to someone in English.
Yes, it's like training for a sport. The more you practice the right movements, the easier it is when it really counts.
So, if you've been struggling with pronunciation or fluency, shadowing might be the missing piece in your learning routine.
Absolutely. And once you make it a habit, you'll start noticing big changes in how you sound and how easily you can express yourself.
All right, so let's go over some quick action steps for anyone who wants to start shadowing today.
First, pick your audio. Find something that interests you, maybe a podcast, an interview, or even a TED Talk. Just make sure the speaker is clear and natural.
Right. And if you're a beginner, choose something with subtitles or transcripts. It'll help you follow along and understand what's being said.
Step to listen first. Before you start repeating, just listen carefully to the way the speaker talks. Notice their rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation.
Exactly. Then, on your second or third listen, start shadowing. Try to speak at the same time as the speaker, without pausing or waiting.
It might feel awkward at first, but don't stop. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to train your brain and mouth to work together naturally.
And if you struggle with a sentence, go back and repeat it a few times. Pay attention to which words are connected, which sounds are dropped, and how the sentence flows.
That's such a good point. English speakers don't always pronounce every word separately, so shadowing helps you get used to those natural speech patterns.
Another tip: record yourself. It might feel weird, but it's a great way to hear what you're doing well and where you need to improve.
Yes, and if you compare your recording to the original, you'll start noticing small details that make a big difference.
And most importantly, be patient.
Shadowing takes time, but if you stick with it, you will start hearing improvements in your pronunciation and fluency.
So, if you've been looking for a way to sound more natural in English, this is it. Just stay consistent and have fun with it.
And remember, fluency isn't about perfection, it's about practice and confidence.
So keep shadowing, and you'll see results sooner than you think.
Another great way to level up your shadowing practice is by using different speeds.
Oh, that's a good one. Slowing things down first can help you catch tricky sounds. But once you're comfortable, try speeding it up to match real-life conversations.
Exactly. Some apps and video platforms let you adjust playback speed. Start slower, then gradually work up to normal speed, or even a little faster to really challenge yourself.
And let's not forget about emotion. A lot of learners sound robotic when speaking because they focus too much on individual words instead of how those words are spoken.
That's true. When you shadow, try to copy not just the pronunciation, but also the speaker's tone, emotion, and even facial expressions.
Yeah, because English is more than just words, it's the way you say them.
If you pay attention to stress and intonation, your speech will sound much more natural.
And here's something that really helped me when I was learning a second language, shadowing different types of content.
Oh, like what?
Well, instead of only listening to news reports or lectures, I'd mix it up with TV shows, interviews, and even stand-up comedy. That way, I got exposure to different tones, speeds, and expressions.
That's a solid strategy. Plus, if you shadow something entertaining, you're more likely to stay motivated.
Exactly. And one more thing, don't worry too much about getting every word perfectly right. Focus on flow and rhythm instead.
Yeah, because in real conversations, nobody speaks perfectly.
The goal is to be understood and sound natural, not to stress over every tiny detail.
Right. And the best part, the more you shadow, the more confident you'll feel when speaking to real people.
And confidence is everything when it comes to fluency. Once you stop hesitating and start speaking naturally, that's when you know shadowing is really working.
Another thing to keep in mind, don't just shadow passively. Try to really engage with the content.
Yeah, if you're shadowing a conversation, imagine you're part of it. Match the speaker's energy, gestures, and even facial expressions.
It makes a huge difference.
That's so true. If you sound bored or monotone while shadowing, you're missing out on the full effect. Mimic the enthusiasm. The emotions make it feel real.
And here's a fun challenge once you're comfortable with a sentence or phrase. Try saying it without the audio. See if you can reproduce the same flow and pronunciation on your own.
Oh, that's a great one. It really forces you to internalize the sounds instead of just repeating them in the moment.
Exactly. And speaking of challenges, another way to take shadowing to the next level is by using it with different types of English.
Oh, like formal versus informal speech.
Yeah.
For example, shadowing a TED Talk will help you sound more polished and professional. while shadowing a casual vlog or sitcom will help you sound more relaxed and natural in everyday conversations.
That's such a good strategy. Depending on your goals, you can tailor your shadowing practice to match the type of English you actually need.
And don't be afraid to experiment. Try different voices, different speeds, even different accents. The more variety you expose yourself to, the stronger your skills will get.
Yes, shadowing isn't just about repeating words, it's about training your brain and mouth to work together effortlessly. And when that happens, speaking English becomes so much easier.
Exactly. The more you do it, the more natural it feels.
And before you know it, you'll be speaking without overthinking every single word.
Another cool trick, try shadowing with background noise.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to prepare for real-world conversations.
In real life, there's always some level of noise, whether it's people talking in a CAF, traffic outside, or music playing in a store.
Right, so if you practice shadowing in a slightly noisy environment, your brain gets used to focusing on speech even when there are distractions.
And that's super helpful because a lot of learners struggle with understanding native speakers when there's background noise. This method helps train your ears to pick up on speech patterns even in less than perfect conditions.
Absolutely. Another fun way to make shadowing more effective is to write down tricky phrases and then try to say them without looking.
Oh, so kind of like a memory game.
Exactly. When you write it down, you reinforce the sentence structure. Then when you try to repeat it from memory, you're not just imitating, you're actually processing the language.
That's such a great tip.
And if you struggle with certain words or sounds, you can slow it down, break it apart, and then gradually speed it back up.
Yes, shadowing doesn't have to be rushed. Sometimes taking a phrase step by step can help you master pronunciation way faster than just repeating it over and over at full speed.
Definitely. And you can even turn it into a personal challenge. See if you can shadow an entire dialogue or monologue without pausing.
That's a great idea. And for those who love structure, you can even make a shadowing routine like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night.
I love that. The key is consistency. Even a little bit of shadowing every day can have a huge impact on your pronunciation and fluency.
And honestly, it's such a simple technique. But when done right, it can really transform the way you speak English.
Yep, it's all about making it a habit and having fun with it.
The more you enjoy the process, the faster you'll see results.
And speaking of making it a habit, one thing that really helps is pairing shadowing with something you already do every day.
Oh, like what?
Like listening to a podcast while getting ready in the morning or shadowing a short video while commuting. If you connect it to an existing routine, it becomes second nature.
That's smart.
Instead of trying to set aside extra time, you just blend it into your daily life. No excuses.
Exactly. And another fun idea, try recording yourself while shadowing.
Oh yeah, that's a game changer.
It's weird at first, but when you listen back, you can actually hear what you're doing well and what needs work.
Right. We don't always realize how we sound until we hear ourselves. And sometimes the mistakes we think we're making aren't even there.
True. Plus, tracking your progress over time is super motivating.
You'll start noticing little improvements in rhythm, pronunciation, and confidence.
And once you see those improvements, it pushes you to keep going. Learning a language is all about momentum.
100%. The key is to stick with it. Shadowing works best when it's a regular part of your routine, not just something you do once in a while.
Yep, even 5 minutes a day is better than nothing. Small, consistent effort beats random bursts of practice every time.
And the best part,
the more you shadow, the more natural English starts to feel.
you're not just memorizing words, you're training your brain to think and speak in English effortlessly.
That's the ultimate goal, right? To reach a point where speaking English feels automatic, not like a struggle.
Exactly. Shadowing might not be magic, but it's pretty close if you stick with it.
So, to wrap things up, if you're serious about improving your pronunciation and fluency, shadowing is one of the most powerful techniques you can use.
Absolutely.
It's simple, effective, and you don't need a teacher or a speaking partner to do it.
Just pick content you enjoy, mimic the speech, and stay consistent.
And don't worry about being perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. The goal is to get comfortable with the rhythm and flow of English.
Exactly. Keep practicing, keep challenging yourself, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Learning English should feel exciting, not stressful.
That's the key. So, if you haven't tried shadowing yet, give it a shot. You might be surprised by how quickly you improve.
And let us know, have you ever used shadowing to improve your English? What's been your experience?
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.